discovery. We embrace the unwavering belief that with passion, determination, and a spirit of resilience, nothing is truly out of reach.
Okay, let's start off with a question. Raise your hand if you would eat a cricket. Okay, some of you, good. My name is Laura, and I spent over 10 years doing exactly that, figuring out how to get people like you to eat bugs. I'm the co-founder of a company called Chirps, and we make food with insects as a more sustainable protein source. I did a deal on Shark Tank, sold insect-based products to over 1,500 stores, and co-wrote a book series for kids about, you guessed it, eating bugs. So you might be surprised when I tell you that this talk isn't really about bugs, but about changing minds. Because in order to bring something new into the world, there are two parts: innovation, as in inventing something new, and adoption, as in actually getting someone to use it. For example, for the Wright brothers, it wasn't just about inventing an airplane, it was about convincing people to fly in it. Coffee arrived in Italy in the late 1500s, but it was initially seen as foreign and bitter. And forks took hundreds of years to become popular in Europe after being introduced. Across history, the first reaction to almost anything new is usually resistance. And if you want to make change, your job is to counter that. So today, I'll share our story about how we got people to eat bugs and how you can apply those learnings in your own life. And with that, I would like to introduce to you our rule of the 3 F's to get someone to try something new. Make it familiar, get their friends to try it first, and address fears. All right, rule number 1, make it familiar. Question time. If I held up and offered you a whole raw fish right now, how many of you would eat it? Now, how many of you like sushi? Exactly. Americans initially resisted the idea of eating raw fish in sushi until it was put with familiar ingredients like rice and avocado and was given a familiar name, the California roll. Now let's look at another example. This drink is raspberry lychee. Why raspberry lychee and not just lychee? Familiarity. People already like raspberries, and together it feels less strange. Always pair the unfamiliar with the familiar. So how did we make bugs familiar? When we first started, my co-founder and I went to the pet store, bought some crickets, fried them up, and offered them to our friends. And as you might have guessed, there were not many takers. Why? Because although crickets are popular in many countries, in the US, crickets aren't a familiar food. We realized that Americans aren't used to eating whole animals at all. We don't eat whole pigs, cows, or even see whole fish. Instead, we're used to them being processed into things like burgers and chicken nuggets. So we needed to do the same thing for crickets. As it turns out, you can roast crickets and turn them into a nutty powder. And powders are familiar to Americans. We have almond powder, whey protein powder, so we made cricket powder. And to make it more familiar, we used it as a protein boost in familiar foods like cricket cookies, cricket chips, and cricket protein powder. And finally, our friends started eating our products. And speaking of friends, rule number 2 is get their friends to try it first. What we realized is that if we could get someone's friend to eat bugs, there was a high chance they would eat it too. Remember how coffee was considered strange and foreign when it was first introduced? So how did it become popular? A big part was coffee shops. At coffee shops, adventurous people could try it first and then introduce it to more hesitant friends. And seeing others publicly enjoy it made coffee less foreign. So how did we make bugs social? Instead of just putting them on supermarket shelves, we sold them at places like zoos, museums, and tech companies where friends could try them together. Here I am sampling at a Google office. Now, before we get to our last rule, I'd like to take a quick detour and talk about something that we thought would work and didn't at first, which was facts. When we started trying to get people to eat bugs, we used a lot of facts. Crickets use 10 times fewer resources than cows and use 1,000 times less water per pound. And did you know that more people eat insects than speak English? These were great facts, but they didn't get people to eat bugs because they didn't address the core issue, which was that people were afraid. So before you use facts, make sure you do rule number 3, address fears. New ideas can be scary. Even the light bulb faced resistance. To prove its safety, Edison staged public displays like lighting a Christmas tree. And to popularize flight, the Wright brothers and others held large public air shows. For us, we knew people were afraid that insects were dirty. So on all of our packaging and social media, we make everything white and clean. We knew people were afraid that our products looked scary, so we worked with chefs to post delicious photos and recipes. And most of all, we knew people were scared that insects wouldn't taste good, so we set out to get as many people to try bugs as possible. We decided to build the world's largest nachos, made of course with cricket chips and weighing over 5,000 pounds. Putting our rules of 3 F's together, we made it familiar with classic nacho ingredients, invited our friends and all of San Francisco, and we gave out thousands of free samples to help people get over their fears. So speaking of free samples, let me ask you one last time. How many of you would try a cricket cookie now? Great. Well, at the end of this talk, you will get a chance to try. And as you take your first bite, I want you to think about this. The world's biggest problems, poverty, food scarcity, sustainability, won't be solved by doing things the way they've always been done. They'll be solved by people like you, who don't just invent new things, but know how to get people to adopt them. So remember the 3 F's. Make it familiar, get their friends to try it first, and address fears. And hopefully, you'll get someone to try something new. Maybe even eat a bug. Thank you.